Welcome to a bonus episode of Decision Space that is brought to you by the crew of our interdecisional spaceship. If you would like to join our crew and pick the next topic for a bonus episode, you can support the show at patreon.com/decisionspace. Welcome to Decision Space After Dark, the only show that takes place right here in the space between the sips of your favorite beer. I'm Jake Friedman.
And I'm Brendan Hansen.
And this is the podcast about decisions in games.
And it's a bonus episode!
Today brought to you by
our patrons.
And today we're going to be answering all of Reddit r/board games questions about board games. So don't even worry about it, y'all. We've got you covered. Brendan, why don't we get right into it? So let me just give you the concept here. Basically, I went on Reddit r/board games, a place that I often go to look for just some of the absolute best discussion on board games happening anywhere. And I've pulled a bunch of questions found on that site that people really need answers to for us to answer for everyone. Problem solved. We're answering all their questions. So these are all real questions that I found on Reddit, and most of them are just taken straight out of the title. Some of them I have a tiny bit more context, but what I want you to do, Brendan, is let's just answer these rapid fire, boom, 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 solving all the problems. They could, after this
on the internet, all the problems on the internet.
I don't know. I think world peace.
Step aside large language models. I'm on ChatGPT now.
Okay,
that's the take.
Yeah, are you ready, Brendan?
I'm ready.
Let's start hot. What happened to the Ameritrash genre, Brendan? Your thoughts?
Nothing. There's tons of games that are made in that genre still.
Yeah.
I don't know. People decided to be pompous and say they didn't like fun things and stop buying them. I don't think it went anywhere.
Yeah, we've gotten in trouble. I've used the term Ameritrash before, so we're anti that. We're never going to say Ameritrash again after that just there. But yeah, I think that these games are still around, still proud.
Have you been to Kickstarter?
I just played Project Elite for the first time, and it was very fun. So I think crisis averted, Ameritrash genre. Damn it, I did it again. Still here. Ready for your next question, Brendan?
Let's do it.
Okay, how do we define what is and what is not a board game?
We made a whole show to do that. No, the early days of Decision Space, we talked about this way too much.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like every episode devolved into Jake and I just waxing about, would it really be a game? Is this life really a game? But anyway.
But we did have some conclusions. First of all, sports, definitely a board game.
Definitely not a board game.
Wait, no, I think mega dexterity game. It's definitely, all right, so we disagree on that one.
Is Magic the Gathering a board game?
Absolutely. Basically,
absolutely not.
No, oh god, we have no consensus on that one. Brendan, we have to come to a solution, so we're solving problems. We can't just leave people with lingering questions.
You know what they say? Rigid. We only like rigid definitions.
Okay,
in Decision Space.
Can we make just an agreement? If you give me sports in the board game space, I'll let you have Magic the Gathering, not a board game.
Okay, I think I can't. No, I can't make that deal.
No,
I can't
do
it.
Okay, what can I throw in?
Sports.
What else can I throw in to get sports? I need sports to be a board game. It's my whole thing.
Curling is so close to crokinole.
Oh my god, dude. Okay, just think about curl. Okay, think about crokinole. Is crokinole a board game?
Well, okay, wait.
Brendan, is crokinole a board game? No. Answer the question, sir.
No. Yes. Well, okay. Are we talking board games or tabletop games?
We're talking, how do we define what is and what is not a board game?
If it has a board, it's a board game.
Yeah, but Brendan, what is a board? You're telling me a crokinole board is a board, but a soccer field is not? Open your mind.
Oh no.
Okay.
This is going to be a really fun, silly episode. Are we trying to answer this question?
Okay, fine. We'll table it. We'll come back to it.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
I've got another really important question for you, Brendan. How to make a board game dusty. This person wants to make their board game look dusty, like it hasn't been touched in many years, but this game has been touched and isn't getting that dusty.
Okay, this one's easy. What you got to do is you get a hot car. Ideally, it has to be a car from like 1996, one of those like Honda Civic hatchbacks with a nice long window and a shelf in the back. So you're going to get that car and you're going to drive it to the biggest mall parking lot full of concrete that you can find, just blacktop as far as the eye can see. Even better if it has a parking garage. You're going to go to the top of the parking garage and you're going to park there facing the direction of the sun. You just want full exposure. You're going to pack it back there and you're just going to leave it. Then while you're leaving it, and you're going to leave it there for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you're going to go to Home Depot and buy some, what's it called, Jake? You know, like soil,
Dirt.
dirt, and you take that in the car, you rub it a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
what you really want to do is you want to mix that into a bottle, like a squirt bottle, you know, like you would use to spray plants, or at the barber they would spray you. So mix a couple cups of soil and a bunch of water, and then spray the board game while it's sitting in the back a few times.
Okay.
Let it bake. I think you've got yourself
Let
a
it
very
bake,
dirty
yeah.
aged game.
I mean, that was a great answer. So you're welcome. We solved another one. I was just going to say, maybe like put it aside and don't touch it for many years.
No, we got to do
Voila.
efficiency.
Yeah. Okay. You came up with the 3-week solution. Okay. I've got 2 more questions. I've got a bunch more, but 2 that are kind of a pair. So
Okay.
the first one is roll and move mechanic really so bad?
No, definitely not.
No. What's good about it? I mean, we got good examples of it.
Yeah. Oh, I
Seems
love
pretty
being
bad.
on the spot.
I know. I didn't show Brendan any of these questions beforehand, so I have like all the power here.
Okay, I think that there's random and move mechanisms that can actually work. The huge problem with roll and move games is so many of the games that we've historically played with roll and move mechanisms, it's all of the mechanisms that are around the rolling and moving that actually suck. But I don't think there's anything intrinsically terrible about rolling dice and moving a certain number of spaces on a track. I bet you could do that in a really interesting way.
Yeah,
But
I
it's sour.
agree.
It's a poison pill.
I like that. I mean, I think it'd be a fun design challenge for somebody. I
think
totally
so,
agree
too.
with you. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. Obviously, if like rolling high is strictly always better and there's no difference in spaces, that's probably not that interesting. But if there are lots of different reasons why you'd want to move far or short, or maybe there's like a cost associated or ways to mitigate what you roll, there's no reason why this mechanism couldn't be done in an interesting way, right? We like rolling dice for a lot of things in board games. Why can't movement be one of those things?
I will say, if you listen to this episode and you're like, wow, that's a great idea, I should design a roll and move game, you're going to have a really tough time pitching it to a publisher if that's your goal. I think,
Yeah,
no
that
matter
makes
how
sense.
good your roll and move game is, I think it's just a poison pill in people's minds, right?
You have to be
It's
like
so
you'd have to be a known entity, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think you'd have to have a really good pitch of why roll and move is the way to go for this specific game. But race games are really fun. I think there's a way that you could probably make it work. Rondelles are interesting. There's things you could do. So Redditor who bravely posed this question to r/board games, we're with you. Not so bad.
Yeah, not so bad. Brendan, so the kind of corollary, are higher rated board games really that good?
So this person's talking about. I guess
This is a separate person. This is a separate question I found.
Okay.
I just put together. Yeah, there are higher rated games really that good? Brendan, your thoughts?
This is a real question.
Yes.
I think that's sink in on this question. Not to
Okay.
say that how can I make my game dirty?
Dusty, Brendan.
Dusty
God.
wasn't a real question. But I think
There's a million reasons why you'd want your game to be dusty. I'm just not going to enumerate them for you. But,
right.
Okay.
This
but
is
anyway,
a yes and no, right?
Yeah.
This for me, this is 100% a yes and no. There's so many reasons why really questionable games end up with very high ratings on Board Game Geek. Tons of people before us have talked about how Kickstarter basically gives you this relationship to the game that you've invested money into, which was going to cause you to go out and validate the purchase that you've pumped into something, give you any desire to interact with a product that you don't yet have by going on to Board Game Geek and talking about how awesome it is, rating it highly because you're so excited to get it into your hands. And then I think there's a lot of games that are actually awesome. I'm going to name one that has way too low of a rating on Board Game Geek, 6.5, but it's great. It's called Set. It's from 1988. It's an old game. So yeah, no, I don't think it perfectly correlates at all. You know, there's a number that you want to be above probably.
Yeah.
And there's a number that once you get above, it's probably a bad sign. You know, there's not a lot of games that are rated above a 9 where I don't think there's some shenanigans at play.
Yeah, there was a really interesting shut up and sit down conversation about ratings. I think they were talking about Mobile Markets or Smartphone Inc., one of those games, maybe both of those games. And the conversation kind of evolved down to like the only ratings that matter on Board Game Geek are like between like 7.2 and like 8.6. Like that's really the kind of like key thing where it's like below that is maybe largely not worth your time, but there's like exceptions. And then above that, it's like something kind of like funky is going on there. So I would say no, higher rated board games are not really that good. It says everything about the rating system. There are plenty of games that are rated lower than the highest rated ones that are much better for most people. And all that's speaking to are the preferences of like the majority of people using that system, which
And
isn't going to be the true for everyone.
there's a lot of things at play here too that are sort of interesting, right? With Board Game Geek, it's a website that has been around a very long time at this point, and different number of games have different numbers of ratings, which impact how much a game moves. I think sometimes people don't appreciate how much a game below 500 ratings, a 1 or a 10, can actually meaningfully kind of move the
Yeah.
rating in a way that's pretty impressive. But then also, if you look at an old game, like Jake, I just played Tower of Babel, a Knizia game from 2005. I played it at Geekway to the West. I thought it was awesome. This is a game that fell out of favor, out of vogue, and among Knizia fans has kind of cropped back up as maybe this game had a few more interesting things going on. And it has 2.4K ratings on Board Game Geek, 2,400 ratings. And I don't know this for sure. I haven't gone through all of them, but I bet a lot of the ratings here are not recent ratings if you go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that the ratings here are going to be representative of a very different period of taste where people are comparing things to different types of games. And the scale of what they're rating might be different as well, right? Like you can't always compare, you can only look at a single game in a vacuum, and sort of, I think the distribution of ratings is probably even more accurate than comparing one game to another rating, because there's so much that potentially changes when those ratings were made, etc.
All right, this is getting dangerously serious, so I'm going to get us back on track here with a new question. Brendan, why is Heat so expensive? $75? What gives?
$75 is cheap for a board game these days.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all. I feel like, what isn't expensive? My bananas are cheap. I've been eating a lot of bananas lately because I can pump my toddler full of them.
Prices are going up in our industry. Maybe the shipping crisis is kind of coming down, but usually when prices on things go up in society, like in restaurants, like restaurants never lower prices. They only go up. So like once they hit that much and then they stay surviving because people are still buying their products and food, it's not coming back down. So I think that kind of inflation that we've seen in this industry, unfortunately, is here to stay. And it is too bad, obviously, that we're privileged to be able to play a bunch of different games. Playing online helps a lot with that. But yeah, this is a hobby, is an expense, always has been, always will be.
I have two thoughts. Can I respond? I know we're keeping it silly, but I do think one reason for it and why we'll sort of see it creep up is it's just more expensive to make board games than it's ever been. That's a fact that will continue to be a fact for the rest of time. Every day that passes, it'll get a little more expensive because of inflation. But during the pandemic, a lot of publishers got caught with games that they couldn't ship easily to the United States, which had a high shipping cost, a storage cost, a fee associated with it, right? If people print overseas, they get stuck with a big print run that they can't relocate physical products to wherever the destination is, whether it's, I said the United States, but the United States or Europe or wherever, they're paying storage fees. I speculate that publishers were probably riding a risk line a little bit more closely than they realize they're comfortable with now. And it's easier to say, the world is a variable place. I need a little bit more margin on this game that I'm pretty sure is going to be a hit follow-up to a game that came out previously. I'm going to bump the price a little bit because the world is a pretty uncertain place. Also, $75 is a deal. Ticket to Ride Legacy. Do you see how much this game costs, Jake? Ticket to Ride Legacy. How much would that cost?
I saw it. It's $125.
$120.
I've got another question for you. So I think we solved that one. We know why he is so expensive. Brendan, would you pay $300 for 4-player bundle of the Company of Heroes Kickstarter?
No.
No, I would not. Okay, solve that one.
I would pay $30.
Okay, Brendan. Here's another serious one. Board game rental business? ? Your thoughts?
No, don't do that.
Yeah, it's no. It's a no from me too.
How are you going to cover shipping costs?
I don't know. It's so we're not doing that. We're not doing board game rental businesses.
No.
And probably I feel like board game restaurants are awesome. there's like a board game cafe where I live, but I don't know that that's going to be like the most lucrative business model. Like it feels like one in a city of 3 million that feels about right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that all of these businesses, the margins are just so brutal. I would love to have a board game rental market where I could just teleport a game into my house. But I think it's just better to find friends with big collections.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, intuitive sense, like why a board game rental would be awesome. Like,
Yeah.
once you sometimes you just want to play a game and then you're done with it. You don't need to own it, but unfortunately, not. But again, I feel like we always, we're not sponsored by Board Game Arena. Like, what an incredible value $5 for like premium Board Game Arena is, and
Changed
then
my life.
Yukata, you could also play so many great games on there totally free. You can also play free on Board Game Arena. Hop in the Discord, we'll play games with you, we'll invite you to premium games. You don't even have to have it. It's great.
Okay, I will say, Jake, we just got off recording a different episode, and I went downstairs and I did see a package on the table, so I brought it up to show you what it contained. It's related to the question that just got asked. It's
Company of Heroes.
Abuloxin!
No.
I just imported Linko, Wolfgang Kramer, Michael Kiesling game from Europe. I would have rather rented it, but I bought it. So yeah.
Nice. Congratulations. You look really happy with that copy of Abuloxin.
Boo on me for saying that it was a bad idea to have a rental service as I'm importing games from Germany. So
Brendan, thank you for the distraction, but please, can we get back on track? I need to
let's
know
get back on
how
track.
good is Dice Throne actually?
Actually, how good is Dice Throne?
yeah, not how good is Dice Throne, how good is Dice Throne actually? So I think with this person, no fluff here, Brendan, just actually how good is it?
It's actually, I can't say because I haven't played it. I will say I've seen a lot of people playing it.
Yeah.
So it must actually be fine, at least.
It's fine. It's fine. I played one game of it. It's very much a Yahtzee variant with some really cool theming. There's plenty of roll and write or roll and play style games that I would personally prefer to play than Dice Throne, just from a game mechanics perspective. But like if you love Marvel or something, it's fine. Brendan, is there anything to replace Will Wheaton's tabletop with? Please, people need to know. They've been asking.
Okay, so this I can give a really good answer to because I too have a well deep inside my heart that will never be full again. Because what you want to replace is not Will Wheaton's tabletop. What you miss is the feeling that you got discovering tabletop games through other people's joy for the first time when you were watching a video on YouTube in 2011 or 12 or whatever it was, and the immense rush of bliss seeing people enjoy games like that. It can't come back. It was a blip in time. It was beautiful. It was special. For many of us, it created awesome memories. But even if Will Wheaton's tabletop came back, you'll never get the early aughts and the period of discovery back. It's gone. It's gone.
I can only think of one thing. Decision Space podcast. It's like the podcast about decisions in games. It's really good. I think you should listen to it.
Really quickly. Wait, Jake. Did you ever watch Tabletop?
Yeah, no, I had I think your answer is great. I had that exact same experience. Like I think my first learning about, I like found Pandemic, and then I watched like 8 hours of shut up and sit down videos on YouTube, and then I was just like scratching my neck, like what else is there? And like Will Wheaton Tabletop got into the queue pretty quickly, and I definitely watched it, enjoyed it back in the day. Have not found anything to replace it with.
It hit at I have to just go on. I know this is a silly question episode. There's a long list, but it also just hit at the perfect time.
People need answers.
Where YouTube, I know, but like the production was so nice because it wasn't too fast. It wasn't like the YouTube algorithm hadn't taken a razor to all content on YouTube to make it a really specific thing yet. Just like so well produced.
You know what though? I think there is a space for more like reality TV inspired by board games, and that's actually something that's like happening. I've talked about Traitors on this show, which is like basically the Resistance or Werewolf or whatever made into like a big budget reality TV show. And it has that same thing where it's like people doing their solo talking to the camera about what they think is going on. And it's an awesome format. It's a flawed show for a few reasons, but I think that it's like been a big enough hit that we'll keep seeing more and more stuff like that. So that would be my honest recommendation. It would be, if you're looking for something like that, check out Traitors and see if you like that. Okay, next, solved another one. Dude, we're doing great. Brendan, what card sleeve thickness should you go for? And this person is asking specifically in microns.
Specifically in microns?
Yeah, in microns, Brendan.
You have that ability?
Yeah.
To like, Oh my
I have the
god.
answer for this one if you want to pass it to me.
Okay, you can. Yeah. What's the
Yeah,
answer
what
in
this person
microns?
is looking for, if you're asking this question in microns, is top loader sleeves. You know, the big, thick, chonky ones. That is what you need to protect your cards to the maximum. If not that, I think just ship them off to get like graded and like or maybe like pave them into cement or something.
Okay, I do have sleeve thoughts. I don't have them in microns though. I don't have
There's
mini
so
thoughts in
many.
microns.
This is sort of the stand-in for sleeve. Actually, I have one other question. Maybe a follow-up on that. Do you sleeve or don't?
Board games, no.
No, do you sleeve or you don't?
Don't.
Don't. Okay. I'm
but
also I'm also don't.
yeah. I mean, okay,
Were
prototypes.
you are you a once? A once were, now don't? I'm a once was, now you don't.
I mean, I've sleeved every trading card game in my entire life, and prototypes require me to have
Ooh, I
sleeves
do
all the
still
time.
sleeve some things, but yeah, none of my board
My board
games.
games, I'm just like, no, beat it up. I want to see it loved.
I know, I love that, right? Nothing.
Patina.
Yeah.
Stick it in the back of the car.
Yeah, make it dusty. We can wait. Why are we waiting? We can manufacture this. Okay,
Wait, but
great.
Jake, what's your sleeve
Yes.
brand? I'm gonna ask a silly question.
Uh,
If you gotta
I have
go, what is
I
it?
have like penny sleeves from like Mayfair, I think, but
Okay.
for like like good sleeves, like prototyping sleeves, drag or like collectible card game sleeves,
Easy.
Dragon
Dragon
Shield,
Shields,
dude, they
free,
rock. Yeah,
best sleeves. If I'm going prototype though, because then I don't really care. I just want like lots of different card back colors probably to differentiate decks. Titan Shields are fine. Also, board games, I feel like you just want thin, cheap, clear sleeve. If I was gonna sleeve a board game, I would
yeah,
just want, because decks get unwieldy. Yeah, I just
yeah,
want like penny-ish sleeves, maybe slightly better. Dang, I did need to know the micron count. Ah,
yeah. Brendan, more career advice. People need career advice. We're
I'm here
probably
for
the
it.
guys to give it to them. This person, this is a little bit longer one. I'm decently happy in my career and make likely a slightly above average, but not passionate about their job. Should I make a YouTube channel?
What a U-turn. No, you
No.
don't.
The answer is no. If that's
If
your
you're
premise.
if you think job and YouTube in the same realm, and was this posted at r/board games also, Jake?
Like specifically, I have
Oh
some of
my
this in
gosh.
ellipses. It was specifically about making like a board game review and play type of channel.
Okay, I want to reach out to you across the airwaves and say you should absolutely pour your hobby heart passionately into a board game channel, but don't do it for money.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
do it.
that's what I
Don't
thought too.
do
I
it.
mean, like if you're opening it with like I make some this much money, it's like like that's just so the wrong way to go about it. We have like growing mildly successful board game podcast on our hands here, and we have some great patrons that help us to host our show on Podbean, which we use. We also pay for kind of a premium on Zencaster so we can record digitally and save me hours in editing.
You bought that Mercedes?
Yeah, the Mercedes, a couple of mics. We flew Brendan out to St. Louis for Geekway, and we've been doing this for like 2.5 years, and we're like, well, what, like $500-600 in the red at this point?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
so it's
so,
like
at least.
at least. So it's not like a lucrative business over here, but it's so much fun to make it. I got some really good advice from Kellen over at Board Game Barrage when we were kind of starting off, where he sort of just said, I was kind of like, oh, like, I'm ambitious. I want to be like doing what y'all are doing, like on like the stage at like these cons and all this stuff. And his advice was basically like, if there isn't joy in making the show, then like everything else is a wash. Like,
Yeah.
and
I've
I thought that
learned
was such good advice. So happy to
totally.
pass it on.
The biggest payoff of making anything should be joy. And also, I've learned so much and had so much fun doing it. That's why you should do anything except your job. Do that for money.
Yeah,
Just
great.
kidding. Just kidding.
Brendan,
I mean, a
let's
little.
go. That's good. I think that's good. I think we nailed that one. Let's
Okay,
go
okay.
on to some more serious questions though. Like, is it safe to buy board games on Amazon? I have bought board games on Amazon successfully. I do think there are sometimes like bad actors on Amazon, like any other kind of like online marketplace. I think that Amazon has some problematic business practices. So the answer is no. You should always support your friendly local game store, and shame on you for asking.
Yeah, watch out for porch pirates. You have to watch out for counterfeiters. You're supporting billionaires. Run. No.
Right. Yeah, I think, I mean,
I've
check
bought
the
games off
reviews.
Amazon.
Check the
Yeah.
reviews. And
Yeah.
you should be good. Okay, Brendan, what are your thoughts on role-playing games like D&D?
This is they're cool. I haven't really played many. I would like to. Is this we're
I've
doing a serious question?
This is a question somebody
Okay.
asked. I thought we should solve it for them.
Yeah, my personal thoughts on role playing games is they're awesome. I think the flexibility and freedom to sit around a table, it's sort of one of the most unique rituals I feel like that have developed in sort of human culture as a formalized practice of gaming together of like the last 100 years. I think it's so cool, and I would like to do it more. I think it's really interesting, and it's always telling when culturally something that people do is talked about and known far beyond the people who would ever practice it. And I think that's true of role playing games even more than board games. There aren't a ton of people who I run into who don't know what D&D is.
Yeah, no, definitely. It has, if you're not aware, like the tabletop industry is so much more massive than like our board gaming hobby in
Yeah.
its entirety. I mean, there's like major motion picture Dungeons and Dragons movie that just came out. It was like actually really good. I really enjoyed it. And when you look at like in our even smaller subsection of like doing board game media in our small scale way compared to like, and we do decent, like we're in the top, I don't know, 20 or so board game podcasts just by in terms of like, I don't know, searchability, like sheer numbers of weekly downloads and stuff. But like you compare ours in our top shows to like Critical Role and stuff like that. They're doing like HBO Max shows. It's just,
Yeah.
making literally millions of dollars a year, where we're like, we're just trying to put this thing up. It's just, you can't even compare them. But that's a different question. My thoughts is that I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons a little bit this year for really the first time ever. I've always been intrigued by it. I think that it's really been a fun experience. It's been a big learning experience. Like doing the actual role playing is way outside of my comfort zone. So that's been a little bit challenging to get into. But I think there are also a lot of things that we as board game players can like adapt and learn from the tabletop community, which is kind of a more established space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about it, but it feels like perhaps, and there's definitely like challenging things with that, with like representation and all that, like absolutely. But it does seem like there's some cool norms and practices around like trying to make sure people feel comfortable with various topics and like where a role play game might go. That's kind of becoming more established and mainstream in the tabletop community. That I think would be awesome if board gamers like sitting down, especially if it's like a new group, maybe did a little bit of like norm setting of like what are sort
Yeah.
of our group norms and expectations going into this play that could help make sure everybody in a game, maybe coming from more diverse backgrounds than we're used to in this like largely white dominated space, could feel more welcome and more included in the games we play. So I would love to see those best practices kind of adopted into board gaming circles more than they are now.
Well put, Jake.
Thank
I
you.
I also will say I like art that makes me feel things, and I think lots of RPGs are structured at like in the wide world of role playing games beyond Dungeons and Dragons are structured to make you feel. I think that's really cool.
Totally. Yeah, that's why I always tell my dungeon master is like,
Make me
Ricky,
feel
I want to
things.
laugh. I want to cry. If I'm not achieving that, then I think you're not doing your job well.
Nice.
Okay.
Then you slap the tissue box on the table.
You
Yeah.
think I'm joking, but I do
I
tell
know
him
you're
that
not.
every time. Okay, Brendan, let's get back to the serious questions. This person asks 10 players Ankh Gods of Egypt game. Basically, they want to have 5 merged gods set up and then play the game without the merge. So you have 10 people playing as 2 conjoined factions. Should
So
they do it?
this game supports 2 to 5 players, according to Board Game Geek. So this is undoubtedly an awesome idea. What you're gonna do is you're gonna set up 2 boards and play separate games. And once you hit the merge, you merge into 1 board. What could go wrong?
That's a cool idea. I like
What could
that.
go wrong?
Yeah. I'm going to come down the other side and say, don't do it.
You haven't played Ankh, right, Jake?
No, I have not.
I want to play Ankh. We should play Ankh. People
Okay.
seem to really like Ankh.
Okay. Well, how about this? We'll play Ankh and then we'll get back to you. So we'll put that one
Okay,
in the parking
that
lot.
question, that's our gimme. We're
We'll
not going to
park all
answer it
that.
yet. Yeah.
Okay, Brendan, to what extent has apples to apples stood the test of time, and is it still worthwhile today?
No.
No.
I mean, maybe. Okay.
Beloved family game Apples to Apples?
I mean, okay. From the perspective of a person who's recently become a parent, not a parent, a parent, I could see wanting to, like, I could see my son at some point playing Apples to Apples and being like, I'm glad you experienced that. But I think there's probably better trivia games and probably better games.
It's not a trivia game.
Isn't it kind of like
It's
I don't know.
Cards Against Humanity, but but it's just
Can we just play
family friendly.
Celebrity? It didn't stand the test of time. It's rotten. Just play
Yeah.
Celebrity.
Rotten apples. Yeah, I think that the time for these games has come and mercifully gone. I'd be lying if I said I haven't enjoyed playing apples to apples in the
Heck
past.
yeah.
And even Cards Against Humanities when I was like in undergrad and not really realizing the things about it now that I find like a little bit less savory. I think the problem with these games is like it takes all the jokes out of the player's hands. It
Yeah.
just gives you jokes and then you just lay the joke down. And I think it creates the illusion that you're being really clever and funny, but it doesn't really, in practice, you're not. The game is giving you everything. And there are games where you can really give space, give prompts that allow people to be clever and funny. And in like Celebrity, right? In a more creative way that feels like a little bit more true to who people are. But that doesn't mean these games aren't funny, but it's just kind of like once you've seen the jokes, like why do you playing it anymore? So
Just play Celebrity. Actually,
just
take your copies of Apples to Apples, take some Sharpies, and then use those to write the prompts for a game of Celebrity. There you go. Still
perfect.
useful, still in vogue. Boom.
Slide them in the back of the sleeve. Boom, we got a prototype going.
Yeah.
Okay, Brendan, does anybody else keep opening their Raw Deluxe box to just shuffle the tiles and coins?
I sure would if I was still at Jake's house.
Uh,
He'd find me down in the basement just shuffling tiles and shaking that bag. Do you, Jake?
All right. No, I don't do that. That's kind of odd, in my opinion. I like the game. I like the deluxe. I'm not just opening it just to. I don't know. I'm picturing like Scrooge McDuck. If I had 200 copies of Raw and I put all of the coins in a kiddie pool. Now we've got afternoon going. But just to open it up to shuffle around the tiles and coins. No.
Should I buy the deluxe edition for $120?
It's just you, man, and Brendan also.
Yeah, just us. And come find me at Jake's basement.
Yeah, I don't remember what I spent on it. Maybe it was like 120 or whatever it was for the Kickstarter. I felt like it was more like 100. I have definitely gotten more play out of my copy of Raw than I have out of any other recent acquisition. I'm not totally sold on like the need for the deluxe version. I think the coins are actually kind of annoying. They're a little bit difficult for me to see, and the tiles are just super chunky that it almost again feels like almost just a touch too much. Do we need this to be in a Terra Mystica sized box? But having like the boards and like the chunky wooden sun discs, you need the chunky wooden sun discs for sure. That's mandatory. But I think that comes in the base game. Honestly, I think the base game would be my recommendation.
Okay. I just found it, Jake. Fantasy Wind Rider Games version, 2016, $40, like new Board Game Geek. I'm gonna make the offer right now.
But I don't think that version has wooden sun discs, Brendan.
Yeah, but it matches my other.
Okay, perfect, great. Unpopular opinion: most expansions make their games worse.
Popular opinion.
Correct opinion, I think. I'm so on team anti-expansion. There are select few that make games better, and I think in almost all cases, those expansions makes gameplay faster.
Yeah. Yep.
Like the Prelude style expansion. That I like, but it's like an expansion that adds more content or makes the gameplays longer. I almost always don't like. At best, don't need, and at worst, think it makes it like actively worse.
I agree that typically in your basic version of an expansion, a contraction, the expansion that makes the game shorter, like Terraforming Mars Prelude, are like the best version. But sometimes I like an expansion that just gives me more options, right? Like a Monolith Arena, here's an extra faction I can use. A Cosmic Encounter, here's 30 extra random alien powers. Great. But on the average, I feel like I want the game to stand on its own. It's already hard enough to teach a lot of the games I have. The last thing I need is just be like, okay, and now I'm going to teach you this new module that I'm really excited to play.
Yeah, 100%.
Way worse. Yeah.
There are the other category of expansions that sometimes I like are the ones that feel like it fills out the game and it makes it's like the game should have always been this. So like Norwegians for A Feast for Odin. Sure. It's like a famous example where people are like, this is a patch. Yeah. And also like Bruges has
a patch.
Basically a patch. I mean, it adds an extra content, but it's just so, it's when you play it, you're like, this must have been designed like this and then sold and packaged this way, so if that's what's happening, so be it. But in both of those cases, it would have been much better if the game just had that version in the original box.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. Solved it. Brendan, do you get defensive when someone dislikes your favorite games? Babylonia sucks. I hate Babylonia. I don't want to play it ever again.
That's okay.
All right.
No, I don't care. Dislike the things I like. It's fine. We can all like different things. It's okay.
Keyflower is bad. We definitely don't need to play that anymore.
Shut your mouth right now, Jake. No. I am playing a game right now that was
Tigris Euphrates, one of the most overrated games, if not the most overrated game of all time. I'm just like trying these on for size,
It's fine.
Fine. You seem fine. You seem fine. Okay, solved that one. No, we don't.
It doesn't. The games I love aren't me. That's the mistake you can't make.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Yeah, they're just an opinion. What are we doing here? We don't have to take this all so seriously, but this is serious, Brendan, because a guy at Meetup keeps wanting to play worker placement games that are new to everyone but him.
Oh no.
Your thoughts?
Is that just the whole question? It's not even a question.
There was like a whole story. That was the title. It's the story is that, this guy or this person goes to their meetup and somebody's always teaching a new worker placement game, and they're usually these complicated games, and then that person probably wins and other people feel like they don't know all the rules and stuff.
Do you know what would be great? Ranked choice voting. Boom. Problem solved.
I think that this sounds like often like maybe it's like a bad teach, and guess what, you don't have to play if you don't want to play. So this seems like kind of this seems figure outable between y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Suggesting different games.
Last question. I don't enjoy hoarding games. Is this an unpopular opinion?
No, this is a great opinion. I find owning too many games really stressful too. I have games that I will never play again that I want to get out of my house. I think that for whatever reason, there's this idea that you have to own things in our culture to like have an opinion and to validate your thoughts on them. And I don't think that that's true. But I think that especially as representations of people doing hobbies inside their private spaces have become increasingly public through things like YouTube and videos, whether it's retro gaming or board gaming or whatever the hobby is, having lots of stuff somehow became a stand-in for I'm an expert. And I think it's really kind of toxic and not great. And it kind of messed up the whole way a lot of people, myself included for a while, approach hobbies and how we accumulate stuff. And I just want to say that owning things doesn't make you more right. With that said, I like to have a nice little library of things that I can go back to and know that I can have on hand. And owning stuff sometimes does feel really good. So here and there. But yeah, I think that this is something to really reconcile. That's a part of basically this sort of modern transition of media that we've gone through in a lot of ways, changing how we think about our relationships to stuff because of how we see it represented in other people's space.
Yeah, I think board games is an especially tricky one. I'm always so impressed when sometimes people in our Discord will share their collections, and it's people who are like huge game enthusiasts, have played hundreds, if not thousands of games, and their collection is like 40 games.
Yeah.
It's just the games that they really love. All of them they can pull off the shelf. They know the rules to them. I think that is, something that, like that kind of minimalist lifestyle or minimalist perspective is something I've always aspired to, but not something I've really succeeded at.
A fantastic 40.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
I keep my collection to like 2 Calyx shelves.
Nice.
And which is an absurd. That's like 100 games. I definitely can't just pull any off and just know them.
Yeah.
That feels like a good limiter for me. And I don't know that I would want it to grow beyond that, but it does get really hard now that I have these games. Like I was trying to cull some games recently because of getting new games, and I kind of ran into some real sticking points. Like I have this game called Shadespire, which is like a miniature combat game, which I don't play ever, but I like spent like a bunch of time painting some of the miniature armies for it when I was just like trying out all different aspects of the hobby, and didn't really stick with painting them. But I'm like, can I just like, is anybody gonna want these like amateur paint jobs, which are like okay, like I think they're cool. Like I worked on them, but I'm not like a professional mini painter by any means. And also like they kind of like have some sentimental, I just get stuck on like sentimental value. I'm like, where it's just like, maybe I'll have a kid at some point in the future, and then it'll be like 10 years after that, and they'll want to play this game with me, and I'll be like, when I was a young adult, I painted these. Like, so now I'll just like hold on to it for the next 20 years or what?
I get that feeling all the time. It only gets worse. When you have the kid, it's like, oh, it's only a little longer. It'll be big enough soon. But I think ultimately too, the flip side is like it is okay to own things. It's not bad. Like you should own the
Yeah.
exact right amount of things for you in
Yeah.
your life.
The other thing I want to say on this, and this is like now it's a serious conversation, which is in the board game hobby, I think people fall into a trap of like the first 5 board games you purchase are just like this excellent cost prop like value proposition because you're
Yeah.
actually playing those games a bunch of times. You know, like I bought like Castles of Burgundy for like $30 early
Yeah.
on and then played it like 80 times. And I was like, wow, that's the best $30 I've ever spent in my life. But then now when I buy new games, it's like diminishing returns. Like I might never play that game. Like there are plenty of games I bought and literally just not played or played once. And then it's like, you know, I'm not getting that, you know, 500 hours of enjoyment out of any subsequent game I ever buy.
Yeah, this copy of Avalux in my hand, Linko, that I talked about earlier, just got so heavy.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good point, Jake. It's so tough because it's the tabletop conundrum all over again. Tabletop, the Will Wheaton show we were talking about earlier, kind of to the nth degree. And I think that ultimately, for me, it feels like I have to decide, you know, how happy does selling stuff make me versus just giving it away.
Yeah.
Of when I want to move on from stuff, like is the value proposition there? And I think as board gamers, sometimes it's sort of like, no, I must extract all value, every ounce of value from everything I do always. And it's like,
Right.
no, you don't. And it's maybe there's other types of value. And maybe one value that I have is just like moving on and passing those games along to someone who I think might enjoy them or not, just getting rid of them. I think that's fine too. There's some of the games, you know, I'll send along to a good home.
Awesome. Brendan, we answered all of Reddit's questions.
We did. That was a pretty fun episode. Very different than our normal ones.
I don't know. I know we had like a whole silly questions channel in our Discord.
Yeah.
Maybe we just save those for another time. Or were there any that you thought like we should definitely tack on to the very end of this episode?
Okay.
I think that there's something different about like finding questions in the wild. To me, that's like funnier than when people just like are asking funny questions. But there were some good questions in there.
Okay, Jake, what would be the board game equivalent of a triathlon?
Oh man, see, this is way worse when I'm answering the questions. You were dealing with this whole time. Wow, the turntables have turned. A board gaming triathlon. So it has to be like 3 different genres of game. I think one of them, and they all have to be like kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe one of them is Twilight Imperium for more of like your right. That's where we're going. I think Twilight Imperium. Oh, I've got it. It's like the Imperium games. So
Okay.
Twilight Imperium, Imperial 2030. That feels like, okay, now we're moving from a more Amera style game into like this more like Euro hybrid zone. And then we'll finish off with what's another Imperial game, Brendan?
Ooh.
This is Tyler territory. Oh, okay. I mean, you could do like Dune Imperium, like Imperium.
Yeah, or you could play Through the Ages.
Ooh,
That's another long one.
Yeah. Okay, mine kind of broke down there.
I think that you're onto something though, that a board game triathlon definitely has Twilight Imperium.
What are like the 3 most exhausting and yet different games that you've played?
That I've played?
Yeah. Twilight Imperium could be one for sure. I mean, that Imperial 2030 was like pretty Millennium Blades. Then you have to play Millennium Blades right after that. That's very different.
What about, and then you just finish with an entire campaign of Gloomhaven?
Oh my god, no. That's too much. We're not ultra marathoning here.
Okay, that's fair. Let's see. I feel, what would be the right, we're also not taking into account run, swim, bike.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it had to be like different. Like I feel like Millennium Blades and Twilight Imperium are very different. And then
maybe it really is like,
and then you just do an actual triathlon because as we've already determined, sports are board games.
Oh, what about War of the Ring?
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Or Lacerda, maybe one of those. Sneak one of those.
Like on Mars.
Oh yeah,
it's tough because we're not like the super heavy people. Like maybe like an 18xx game. We just haven't like played all of those.
Okay, I think
PAX Premiere is another one that's just like super exhausting when I play it. I'm just like, ugh.
Root.
Just whatever. Pick 3 games that you don't like and are long. That's your
you got yourself
that's
a
your triathlon. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So solve that.
What board game scaled up would be best scaled up 100 times, as in a 50-meter long board if it was a half-meter long board?
My 50 time. I mean, my first thought is like Crocodile would be pretty sweet. I don't know how like far that is. Like, would I even be?
Whoa.
Would I even like? They better really like grease that board if I'm going to be like subbing these
Flicking
like
it? Yeah.
huge components.
Sounds pretty sweet.
Probably most dexterity games would be like pretty fun.
What about non-dexterity? A Euro game scaled up 100 times, a strategy or a card game.
I think something like El Grande would be really dope. You like have to climb up a ladder to like drop your cubes in.
Into the Castillo.
Yeah,
That
and you're
sounds
like
great.
running these around the whole like I don't know like gymnasium or something. That'd be pretty fun.
What are your
I think
favorite?
yeah.
No, you
Solved
answered
it.
it. That was you solved it. Yeah. What's your favorite suit in Lost Cities?
Blue.
Yeah, great. Okay, solved it. Imagine a board game mixing the last 2 games you played. Are you interested in that game?
Okay, so the last 2 games I played was Keyforge, and before Keyforge, maybe Tikal. I don't know.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, sounds pretty
To
rad.
call Forge. I actually think the Keyforge house mechanism is strong enough that
That
it
you
would
could just put it with
absolutely.
almost anything. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, mashing that up with the action selection of Tikal, you could make something super interesting. Great, solved it. Yes, we'd play that. Let's see. What's your best board game themed cologne called?
Best board game themed cologne. So that would be the dang. I'm trying. This is tough on the spot. My first thought was like something like the Norwegian or something. Because I was thinking of like
Nothing says nice cologne like Vikings.
yeah. Well, I don't know, kind of like sort of like foresty, like earthy pine note. But then I was thinking like Stefan Feld pun with like a scent, but then I
Yeah.
couldn't get there either.
The smells of Burgundy?
Yeah, that's not bad.
Okay. Or just Wingspan. That's the name of the cologne.
That's not bad.
Meant to be put under the arms, obviously.
Trois is pretty good too.
just European city names.
Yeah, I don't know why.
How about Great Western Trail? It's just like cowboy cologne. Okay, I feel like we.
Okay,
I think
I'm not good
answered
at
that
this one. Not good.
I
At
think
this
we
one.
answered it. Okay, let's see. One more. If you were expected to introduce a board game to an alien, which board game would you pick?
Definitely not Cosmic Encounter. That would just be wildly offensive.
Yeah. Woof.
I think board games are such a great like tool for learning and could be like a great way of like conversing, to be honest. So maybe something like I'm thinking like communication could be a barrier here. So I think like maybe introducing them to like rock, paper, scissors could be a really good way to like help them understand sort of like some of our human way of communicating and deciding things. I think that Alien might get a real kick out of that.
What if it just turned out rock, paper, scissors was like a galaxy-wide game? Just a game that all cultures have discovered. I could see living in that world.
That's all. That'd be awesome. I've been reading. Have you read Project Hail Mary?
No.
Okay, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a really good kind of science book by the same person who wrote The Martian.
Okay.
And it has a lot of really interesting stuff that's relevant to this conversation, but I would be spoiling stuff. So that's a recommendation for listeners of this podcast.
I want to give 2 thoughts on this question, and then we should cut it. Okay, what about the mind?
That would be awesome. That's a great one.
What are we doing?
That rules, yeah.
And then I also want to play Can't Stop with an alien.
But what if the alien had like such a wildly different concept of time? So just sit there for like an hour, and then they're like, they play the 2.
Yeah. Why is it so funny? I also like Can't Stop. I think would be hilarious because I've seen people get pretty mad playing Can't Stop.
Yeah, I know. That might like end the world, They'd be like, oh, there's nothing here worth salvaging because I just like busted again.
You roll up with the resistance.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, well that was silly and fun. Maybe a safer option is like a Lacerda. But yeah, that was our silly questions episode. Yeah, Jake, we recorded 2 episodes in a row and it's showing. I'm just here being like, ooh, yeah, we did it. Woo-hoo.
We solved all Reddit's questions. We did a bonus episode.
I think
big things for us.
As a reminder too, these bonus episodes, the topic gets voted on. usually.
Yes.
I don't know that it did it for this one?
I think this one was not Patreon. I think it was because I think we asked for like a certain number of reviews and we got
we
them.
picked this one.
We chose this one,
But
which
you
says a lot.
Yes, it does. That's why it turned out so zany. But you can pick the next one because we're going to be voting on what the next Patreon bonus episode is.
We have literally 29 patrons right now.
And we got to 30.
Yeah.
So we already unlocked it.
Okay.
So we're doing it.
Okay.
But
so we need our patrons to tell us what to do.
Yeah, we need and if you want to participate in that vote, you could jump on and then also know that when we get to 35, there's another second bonus episode. It's just like bonus episodes all the way down, like World Tour.
Yeah. And they only take us like 4 or 5 months to find time to record one. So it's like it'll be coming imminently.
No. We're good. We got one. We can do one a month. I think we can.
Yeah, I think so too. Great.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Listening.
No, thank you, Brendan, for talking.
No, thank you, Jake, for asking.
And thank you for listening, listener.
This was we delivered on the silly question bonus episode of Decision Space. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, this is nothing like any of our typical episodes. So go listen to the 123 other episodes of Decision Space that exist up to this point, maybe even more, depending on when this goes up. And until next time, we hope you enjoy that back catalog. We hope you enjoyed this episode and have a lovely time playing games.
And we want to thank the Flash Floods for the intro and outro music, which we use for our bonus episodes.
Flashy.
Yeah. And the song is The Palm of Your Hand.
Love it. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Some people make a lot of money, all in the palm of your hand. And yeah, they think they are so funny, but you know it's all just part of the plan. What are your real motivations? Well, it's not hard to tell. And you don't need congratulations, no, because